Next morning I awoke to the same thoughts that had kept sleep long at bay, and thus resolved to see what air and exercise might do for my meditation. Thus proceeded on my favorite walk.
Miss Bennet, I have been wandering the road some time. Hope you do me the honor of reading this letter.
Two offenses you last night laid to my charge. First, that I had detached Mr. Bingley from your sister, and the other that I had in defiance of honor blasted the prospects of Mr. Wickham. I had not been long in Hertfordshire before I observed my friend's behavior and perceived his most surprising partiality. Your sister I also watched, and though her manners were open and engaging, there was no symptom of warm regard or sentiment. She received his attentions, but remained to my eye indifferent.
My opposition to the marriage arose from other causes of repugnance as well. Your family's want of propriety, betrayed by your mother's manner, your sister's forwardness, and even, forgive me, your father's misplaced wit, all conferred my sense.
And I must preserve my friend from a most unhappy connection.
In London, I found that his sister's uneasiness had been greatly excited, and we were both alike sensible that no time should be lost in detaching.
Bingley has great natural modesty, with a stronger dependence on my judgment than on his own.
To convince him that he had deceived himself was not difficult. On this subject I have nothing more to say and no apology to offer. With respect, however, to that other, more weighty accusation of having injured Mr. Wickham, that I will attempt to refute. My late father not only loved Mr. Wickham's society, but hoped the church would become his profession.
And intended to provide him. He would situate him at the family parsonage and provide a legacy of £1,000. On my father's death, Mr. Wickham wrote to inform me that
I have resolved not to pursue a church living, but to study law, for which the £1,000 would be insufficient. I hope you shall not think it unreasonable of me to expect more immediate pecuniary advantage.
business was soon settled. He resigned all claim to assistance in the church.
And accepted in return some £3,000. He applied to me again, 3 months later, having found the law an unprofitable study, and being resolved once again to be ordained.
This must be false. This cannot be. He assured me his circumstances were exceedingly bad. Indeed, on both sides, this is only an assertion, and yet every line confuses my belief of Mr. Darcy's infamy.
You will not blame me, of course, for refusing his entreaty, and his resentment was so great that every appearance of acquaintance was dropped.
Last summer, he again most painfully obtruded on my notice. My sister Georgiana, whom Mr. Fitzwilliam had taken from school at her wish and established in London. Mr. Wickham, by connivance, recommended himself to her. She was then but 15 and was persuaded to believe herself in love and consented to an elopement.
Fortunately, she regarded me almost as a second father, and confessed her plans. You will understand what I felt and how I acted. I wrote to Mr. Wickham in undisguised heat, and he left London, immediately and alone. His chief object had no doubt been my sister's fortune of £30,000, and the hope, I think, of revenging himself on me.
In slight, his attentions to Miss King seem now the consequence of you solely and hatefully mercenary.
This, madam, is a faithful account of every narrative. But if your abhorrence of me should make my assertions valueless, I direct you to Colonel Fitzwilliam, also guardian of Georgiana, who is aware of every particular described above. I will only add, God bless you.
How humiliating this discovery. And yet how just a humiliation. I could not have been more ignorant had I been in love. But vanity, not love, has been my folly. As to the mention of my family in terms so mortifying, my sense of shame is severe. The charges strike too forcibly for denial. My mother throws herself out with little resistance, and my father barely restrained the self-willed carelessness and uncontrolled giddiness of my two younger sisters. Besides, dear Jane, what can I call them all but ignorant, idle, and vain? How despicably I have acted. I who have prided myself on discernment. At this moment I never knew myself.